Well, Alec, good morning. Good afternoon. I am extremely excited to have you on the show today. You are our first professional runner, a runner that I personally have a lot of connection with, both your organization, your brand, and your group, and a lot of the things that you're doing. And so I'm excited to talk with you. A lot of great questions. So welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. Well, one of the first questions I'd love to start with is just tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you like to do for live, work, and play? And then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so I am originally from Ohio, so I moved from Ohio here to Michigan now. So contrasting a lot of people, they don't mesh well over football programs and whatnot. But it's been a lot of fun, just getting the vibes. But I have 2 degrees in education. So I'm really big in the educational realm. So I'm certified to teach high school, middle school social studies. Then I get my master's in curriculum instruction. So since I've gotten here, I've gone through a couple of jobs where I've worked with younger ones in like sports education. I've worked in a few different jobs, but now I'm actually blessed to work actually in a school. So Huron Academy here is a charter school around here. So I am a paraprofessional. So I just do a little push and support where I fill in where needed, work with small groups, and trying to build my educational brand still and not have a gap in the resume. So big in the educational realm, and then obviously running as well. So those are my 2 big ones. I try and help people through education, and try and continue the running dream. So
you mentioned running. How did you, and you run at a very high level, how did you, what's sort of your origin story? How did you get started running?
Yeah, so I started in 7th grade, so middle school for us. I'd played a bunch of different sports: football, baseball, basketball. I was competitive in those, but I just would feel like there was something missing there. It wasn't quite scratching that itch, I guess, if you will. I'm really, really competitive, and I think with running, it's something that you can be competitive with others, but also yourself. You can rely just on your running. So it's fun to be a part of a team. I think that's one of the most fun parts, but also too, it's always about you as well. So there's a lot of different facets of competition. And so I decided I just want to try something different. I went out for a running camp in the summer. Actually was doing long jump and things like that. And the coach was like, why don't you come out and try long distance? I went out for a 2-mile run, and I fell in love with it. And ever since then, I've gone out there every day for practice. Tried to follow the coach's plan, and it's just grown immensely. So I was pretty lucky to have a good group kind of get me on the right path from middle school.
Yeah. So you started in middle school, and then you probably also ran again in high school, as you mentioned, and then you went off to college. What was that journey like?
Yeah. So in high school, I was always like pretty good, qualifying for a couple of state meets. I actually never qualified for the high school cross country state meet ever in high school. So that was kind of something, I felt like I had more in the tank. I didn't get some things done that I wanted. So I went on to Northern Kentucky University, which is a mid-major D1 school right below Cincinnati. And, I feel like I grew a lot there. It was a big jump going from like 30 to like 60 miles in that quick little summer buildup. So you kind of take your running to the next level. You take it a little bit more serious. And I was still trying to figure out what running was to me. Like I knew I really enjoyed it. But I'd never been the best of the best. So I wanted to see how far I could take it, but also, kind of get ready for life. I was expecting to teach right after. So I continued just every year trying to get a little bit better. And then I knew by about my junior year that NKU, it just wasn't a great fit anymore. We just didn't have the support from administration that I quite needed. I felt like needed to grow. So I knew I had to move on at some point. And that was actually right when COVID hit, was my senior year. So I decided to transfer to the University of Cincinnati, where I knew they had a good little group out there. So I went there, and that's kind of where my running exploded. I had put in a lot of hard work during that COVID time because, not a lot of racing. So I put in a really good base level of mileage and workouts, and I had a really good training partner. And so after that, like I said, it just kind of exploded. I never thought running professional was even possible to that point, but I threw down some pretty good times once running did come back in that winter and spring. And so I think for me, it was just a steadily increase of mileage, and also just focus and how much you wanted to get out of it. It wasn't overnight. It just took for me time to really dedicate to the craft.
Yeah. And when you say you put down some pretty good times, I mean, your resume is pretty impressive, but I just read a couple of things here. So in college, 9 times all conference, 2-time Horizon League champion, 4-time NCAA national qualifier, all American honors in multiple events. Talk about a big step up from high school, from someone who didn't even qualify, like you said, for the state meet. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So, when you go into college and you start to get some of those accolades, sometimes you know it's coming and sometimes you don't. You kind of surprise yourself a little bit. And I feel like when I was in the Horizon League at NKU, I kind of knew where I was. But once I got to Cincinnati, like I said, the training just kind of clicked, where I was running a lot more. I was running faster, but I didn't know what kind of shape I was in. And so once we actually got to get to actual racing and, you kind of flip that switch, it was just exciting to know your fitness is at a whole nother level. So you can tell in practice when you're at a different level of elite running. But once you actually get it done in a race, you sit back and you say like, wow, that was something. You surprise yourself a little bit. So I think for me, it was just dedicating myself to the sport, was, putting in the time and effort. That's the biggest part.
What was the after you graduated with your second degree, your master's degree, and you have the option to go into education, you're doing some of that, but you also decided to go off and be a professional runner. What was the thinking behind going down that path?
Yeah, so I kind of knew after my 5th year that was something I at least wanted to explore, talk to a few programs, different coaches to see what might be a good fit or if it was a good fit for me at all. And to me, it was just like, I still had some question marks. I didn't know how good I could be, where this could take me. And so I found that Hanson-Brooks ODP was a great fit. It was only 3 hours from home, so still had that support. I grew up in the Midwest. It wasn't going to be a change. So you go from here to altitude. That's something that you just never know if you're a responder or not. It wasn't going to be a big shakeup in training-wise because it was kind of aligned with what we did in college a little bit. So I knew that, let's say you only have 5-8 years at the most with this sport, because it is a lot on the body, at least at a very elite level. You can be a lifetime runner, but, get the most out of your body when you're running 100+ miles a week. You can only do that for so long. So I thought to myself, yeah, it'd be great to go out there and, start my educational career as a full-time teacher. But, your window is small in any professional sport. So I thought, why not take this leap? And you can still, like I said, build that resume on the side a little bit. So that was my thought process that, why not take a chance on yourself?
Yeah. And so when did you join the team?
Yeah, so I joined. It was actually a crazy quick turnaround. So after my 5th year that summer, I had verbally committed to the Hansons just because I was still going to finish up my 6th year. I had a semester left of my master's. Then I had cross country and indoor eligibility because of COVID elongated a lot of that stuff. So I knew I was going to come here verbally, but so after a cross country, I decided to come a little bit early. So I finished my NCAA cross country season in 2021 in early November. And then I actually moved out here right after Thanksgiving in November of 2021. And I ran 2 more 10Ks pretty much as soon as I got here. So in 5 weeks, I ran 4 10Ks, 2 NCAA, and then 2 here for the Hansons. So I got moving right away after college to get back into the pro scene. So it was a quick turnaround, but yeah, so November 2021.
I'm personally a big fanboy of the Hansons running team, and a lot of the runners that have asked over the years about, is it time to go get a coach? I almost always say yes. And if they're or people that are looking to run their first half or full marathon and they're looking for a training plan, I inevitably send them to one of the programs that your team puts out. So big fan of the group. I'm just curious, how did that conversation start? Like, do you just email the Hanson team and say, hey, here are my times? How do you even, how does that happen?
Yeah. So, it depends on the route you take. If some people prefer the agent route, so you can get an agent, where you talk to them and they're kind of a liaison to whatever group you're kind of interested in. They kind of put some feelers out there. For me, I didn't really want to go the agent route just because, I didn't feel like I needed one. And two, they do take a cut of what you're making. And I felt like I just wanted to put some feelers out on my own to see what the interest was. And then if the group wanted me to contact me through an agency, like I would. So I kind of just went and found some emails from different coaches. They have them on a Run Pro is the site I used, but they have different coach emails on there, and I found them on there. And I've heard of the Hansons before, just being a Midwest guy. I actually ran with Ben Kendall, who ran the Horizon League as well from Detroit Mercy, and he was on the team, so I knew just of the program. So I knew I wanted to reach out to them. So I sent out an email to Kevin. He got back to me saying, I'd love to stay in contact. And so we talked for about a year before I actually had committed to the team, and I came out on a visit. It's similar to like getting recruited in high school and college. If people are running that, you go on a visit to different schools, or in this case, the program. You see if it's a good fit. They talk to the people on the team to see if they like you and whatnot. And so it ended up being a really good fit for me after the visit. I committed almost less than a week after. I just felt like it was a really good option.
What a story. What a story, right? It seems like at every level you've gone to, it's all about how much more can I go get after? And that propels you to go from middle school to high school, from high school to college, from one college to another college. And now you're at one of the best distance teams in the country. That's really impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
So I love to know what does, and this is such a cliche question, but it's so interesting. Like, what does a typical week look like for you? And maybe you can put in context of you before we started recording, you had mentioned the race you're about to go do next. Maybe that could be the background for kind of what does that typical week look like now?
Yeah. So, I'm doing the Chicago Marathon October 8th. So usually we do about a 12-week buildup for a marathon, 12 to 14, sometimes longer. But for me, what a normal week would look like, even on race week, I'm working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday right now at my school. So they're really flexible with me that they allow me to take time off when I need or understand if I need to travel at all. So I'm really fortunate with that, where I work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from about like 10 to 4, 10 to 5, just get into school and, help kids out. So, but every day I usually start with a 12 to 14 mile run. And then sometimes I'll have a double. So that'll be a second run of the day. Like today I did 12 and then I'll have 6 later. So Mondays and Fridays are my big chill days. So get things done, whether that's, taking care of myself. I just did some physical therapy this morning. So I'll run, get some kind of work done, whether it's myself or going somewhere. Try to make sure I'm fueling properly. Just eating enough is the hardest part in the marathon. And then just kind of chillax the rest of the day. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, try and fit a little bit of that all in there, but it's a little bit hectic with work and everything, but still trying to get some extra stretching in and whatnot. So yeah, I'd say mostly a morning run around 8 a.m. and then filling in the gaps there. And then for Chicago, we'll probably leave on a Friday, head over to Chicago. It's about a 4.5 hour drive for us. We will go and kind of get settled in our hotel. And then we'll go get checked in, get all of our stuff for the marathon. Then Saturday we'll have actually some meetings with it, pace group stuff, and just kind of like meet some people around the area, and then really get locked in. And then Sunday morning, bright and early, 3:30, 4 a.m., get up to go get on a bus to go get some breakfast in, and then get ready mentally to start dialing in everything. So it's a lot of travel in there, but a normal week for me looks about 100 to 120 miles. But that week specifically, we will be down to 80. That'll be a nice taper, 80 miles for us. So just to keep the legs as fresh as possible, but not change it up too much. Because I think that's the big thing with the Hansons is the consistency part of it. You want to try and get your body as used to as much as you can. So actually 2 weeks ago, we did a very similar thing where we left on Friday and we did a course tour of Chicago. So we stayed in the same hotel. I ran parts of the courses on that day to try to visualize, get ready for the race. So they're really big on consistency so that we know what's going to be ahead of us and, how we're going to prepare when the time comes.
Yeah. So to run 12 miles in the morning, you mentioned that, and then you run again later on in the afternoon. What are you typically, do you like to run outside or do you run inside? How do you typically get that in?
Yeah, so here in Michigan, it really depends. I like to be out as much as outside as possible. But, if it's a heavy thunderstorm or just like something's, I don't feel quite like safe where we have ice, it's really cold, I'll go inside on the treadmill. But for me, if I can be outside and feel safe, I will go outside. So we'll do 12, like this morning we met as a group in the morning. We usually always meet every day as a group.
Okay.
So every morning we'll meet around 7:38, whether it's a workout or an easy day. That's a big, again, another hands thing is the team aspect. So we always meet. Then the afternoon, like I said, if I can be outside, great. If not, I'll go inside. But that's a little bit more flexible. I live with another guy on the team, so I'm planning on running with him. But that's a little bit more individualized, where you can kind of do it on your own, work around your own schedule. Where in the morning we meet at a set time every day. So the second one is way more flexible, and you can kind of choose which route you want to go. So
Yeah. Do you ever have those days where you wake up and you're like, I don't want to go run 12 miles? Does that ever happen to
yes,
you at your level? Okay.
it certainly does. And I find that once I get started, usually that it slowly goes away where I'm enjoying what I'm doing. But sometimes I wake up and I'm like, man, I'm drinking my cup of coffee in the morning and I'm like, whew, this is not gonna be a fun one. But by the time I get going and then get running, I feel like I slowly warm up to it, and then you kind of realize, okay, I do love doing this. Just sometimes the idea of it isn't so fun. But there are some days where the whole run just drags on, and I'm like, I'd rather be doing anything else right now. But
Right.
the name of the game, like I said, is consistency. So we got to get it in, whether you want to do it or not. And so most of the time works out where I do enjoy it. But there are days where,
I bet. Yeah. We can relate with that. What about in the afternoon when you do your second run? Do you typically do that after work on the Tuesday on the days that you go to work? Okay.
Yeah, so I do. So I usually do it around 6:30. I'll basically come home and get it done right away, just because that way I can cook dinner, meal prep for the next day. So hopefully I have everything done by like 8 p.m. That way, I'm getting my little bit recovery in and then going to bed at a decent time. So if I don't work, I usually do it in between 2 and 4, just because I found that's a nice, like, you let lunch digest, you're not too right before dinner. But yeah, after work, 6:30, I usually get it in, and I try to just get in right away, because the longer I wait, I feel like motivation dips because you've had a long day, and then
Right.
you have stuff to do after. So I found just getting it out right away is the best thing for me.
Yeah. Your nutrition and how you think about your diet. That's something I would love to ask you to learn more about. How do you, when you think about putting together your meals, do you think about calories? Do you think about percent macros? How do you, or do you just eat whatever you want?
So I try and eat pretty healthy. I was just raised like eating pretty healthy. My sister has type 2 diabetes, so we kind of grew up with a not kind of scheduled snack times, because with her, you have sugar is a big thing, like getting all that stuff right. So I kind of grew up on a schedule. So not that I do that now, but I grew up eating healthy just nutritionally anyways. And then two, I'm just like kind of planning out snacks ahead of time is something I've always grown up doing. So I try and do that now. I don't count calories, but I try and just make sure I get enough, because I think that's the hardest part, is making sure you're fueling enough. Because if I'm running 18 miles a day, minimum 3,000 calories, but probably more. So I don't really count, but I have a rough estimate in my head of my breakfast. I usually do the same thing. I do like a breakfast sandwich where I cook everything. I do an everything bagel. I cook 2 eggs, a hash brown, and pepper jack cheese and some spinach. And I throw that all together, eat that, and then I'll usually have some sort of bar. I'm big like the Gatorade protein bars, just because they're calorically dense and have some carbs and stuff. I try and always have at least 1 big serving of pasta or rice just for carbs. And a big thing, I try and have greens with every meal, whether that's just spinach at the minimum or a full broccoli. I'm a big broccoli, Brussels sprouts, green beans, asparagus. But I just try and keep it like pretty simple. I'm a big chicken most of the time, and then red meat as a supplemental, just because I do need the iron. But I'm pretty heavy on the chicken myself personally. But yeah, I'd say I focus on calories and just trying to get everything in there, fruits and vegetables. I'm a big fan of, this is tart cherry juice. I try and have that during the day just because it's supposed to be an anti-inflammatory. I started that in college. So I don't know how much it actually helps, but placebo, if it helps in your mind, it helps in real life regardless. So and then I'm a big like making sure I get all my vitamins taken care of. So I do like vitamin B12, vitamin D, your guys' supplements. I take all of them now. So I think it's really helps with gut health and just making sure I'm healthy and getting everything in, because I think with running, you don't realize how much you pound out of your body. So I think replacing that with actual food and stuff, and then supplements is a great way to help replenish.
Yeah. No, that's extremely helpful. Just the idea of getting greens with every meal, that just seems like a simple thing that a lot of people can just add, and that would just automatically improve your diet tremendously.
Yeah.
And your breakfast sounds amazing. I want to go make that tomorrow. That's what I was thinking as you were describing it.
Yeah, I think, like I said, just knowing it, if I have that stuff in my fridge or my cabinet, just having it there, I don't have to think about it. It's all just being ready. So I try and get at least a couple meals ahead of time, just so like I'm not guessing when I come home what I'm going to eat, you know? So I think just having it planned out and, you know, having some sense of idea of what you're going to do. Like I said, that breakfast has always worked well for me, and I enjoy it. So it's pretty good.
It's awesome. Well, we're running out of time here, and I want to be respectful of that. And but I do want to ask one last question. I think your story is tremendous, right? All the things that you've done and the levels that you've gone through and the levels you continue to go through, and now you're having your debut marathon at an iconic race. One of the questions that I have is that, is there any advice you would give to, you mentioned earlier that you can run at an elite level for a period of time, but you can always be a runner. And I think that was so well said. Is there any advice you would give to people that are thinking about running or wondering if they could still chase a running goal at an older age in life? Is there any advice you would give to them looking at it from your level as an elite?
Yeah. So I think the hardest part for an elite runner is when your time has come at giving up the elite level. But I think the beauty of running is that there's always something you can chase. Just because your goal times chase, you can always go for age group awards. You can always go for marks to get into certain marathons. I think there's always something you can chase. So having something on your plate just to enjoy and look forward to, it doesn't have to be anything that crazy. Just having something on the calendar and saying, this is something I want to do and try and achieve. And if you don't get it done, okay, let's get something else on there and continue to build. Because I think that's the great thing about running is it's all cumulative. So even if you're not running at your highest level or you're just getting new into the sport, I mean, there's always something to chase. So the thing for me is, even if you're slowing down, you can still put in the work and get some good experiences out of it. So I think never stop chasing something, whether you don't have to be chasing a PR, but it's just something you can always do to kind of give you something to get after, get out the door that morning. So that'll be my recommendation and something that I'm going to continue to try and do, whether it's at elite level or not. So
well said. I couldn't say it better. Alec, thank you so much for your time. This was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on and continue to support the brand.